The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Kachman Mind, Body, Spirit show today. This is going to be very interesting, and it's about milk. Is it healthy for us to consume milk or not? And we'll review the history of it, and it is very well summarized in a book which you see up here, Whitewash by Joe Kachman. It is really the best book on milk, and I'd like you to read that. Get it from the library, or you can go Amazon Books, used copy. They look like they're new, probably $4 or $5. I think it's a good book to have in every house. When you can hand it to different people, they say, well, they want more milk, and you show them, read this, and if you still want it, okay. Okay, so cow's milk and your health. Joe Kachman, and best book ever written about this. And that statement came from John Robbins, author of Diet for a New America. You've heard of John Robbins. And then he wrote a foreword in the book, and he tells you why he wrote it. It's fascinating. His father, had founded the biggest ice cream company in the world. Yes, Baskin-Robbins. That was his father, yes. In their house, understandable, they had a freezer that had 31 flavored ice creams in it. It was an industrial size freezer for their home. You can understand it when that was your business. And this is what they were selling across the world. But it's a calcium paradox. And because there's so much calcium in ice cream and cow's milk, that it's not all good. You need to hear both sides of the equation. Actually, people who drink a lot of milk have increased fracture rate. You think with the calcium they build their bones and they have the strongest bones. Wrong. And it was based on many studies. It's not about intake, but about retention of the calcium. It's not how much milk you're drinking or ice cream you're eating. It's about whether your body retains it. So this really is a story of cows and the hormones that are in milk. At birth, would you believe this? When a baby cow is born, that day, it is injected with a growth hormone. Every baby cow is done that. So it'll grow faster, and it will produce more milk so it can sell more milk. Yes, that's true. So, and then when the calf has been injected, they put it in a cage, and then they feed it hormones to make it grow faster and bigger. And they milk it more, and you buy the milk and you give it to your kid. It's full of hormones. It's full of growth hormones. So it's going to affect your child. Isn't that interesting? So the cows that produce our milk today are not raised on farms or grass. They are sent, they're in cages and sent to factory farms where they feed them things to produce more milk so they can sell more milk. Industry work. So we call it the milk of human unkindness. Normal lifespan of a cow is 25 years. But now, because they're milking it so often and giving all these hormones to the cow to make it grow faster, the average life of a cow is 6 years. Yeah, it's true. So, but they yield 2.5 times what they normally yield. That 2.5 times what a normal cow would produce. 50 years ago, it was a lot less. So dairy factories are created now, which have 2,000 to 20,000 cows in them. Yes, and they're all fed out of a trough. They feed them to produce more milk so they can sell it, but it's full of hormones and fats, and you give it to you drink it yourself or your child, they're going to have abnormalities. So milk is manufactured, cheese, yogurt, ice cream are produced, and we're eating it. We're eating it. Mark Twain died 100 years ago, and he said, this information will free you, which has no scientific credibility. What they're telling you about milk is falsehood. You have to listen to it. Some of it has been regulated now, but when I look at the school menu in our area here, a breakfast, lunch menu, it has milk in it. Yes, it does. It does. And after listening to the story or reading this book, you wonder, what is our government doing? What are our schools doing? Most people are confused as to what is healthy nutrition. They don't know. It's not taught correctly in the schools, on the internet, in the newspapers. We have a misinformed public. Look around, look around. Are people looking healthy? Look at people of other countries where they don't allow that growth hormone to be injected into the baby cow. They look a lot healthier. We have a misinformed public. Look around. Most Americans base their choices on myths, nutritional guidelines by public health and school lunches and breakfast are incorrect. They're handing out the wrong information. They're influenced by the industry, Schools received leftover milk, and it's federally funded. And schools won't give it up because they're getting things for free, which is harming and killing their children. Just look online. They're giving them orange juice instead of the orange. They give them milk on every meal. You'll notice milk. I've gone to the neighborhood health clinic in our town, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I spent 2 days there looking at what they're feeding the children, and I realized they're all diabetic. And right next door to the neighborhood health clinic is what? The milk clinic. And the milk clinic helps fund the neighborhood health clinic where people go who can't afford regular medical care. Yes. Is this a scam? Well, you kind of wonder, right? So that there's been failure of the FDA, the EPA, have failed, and Health and Human Services, HHS, has failed us. They passed out incorrect information, and they refuse to prosecute criminally the negligent corporations and individuals who are feeding this to our children. When you harm them, maybe you should be held responsible, I would think. So unfortunately, we have a popular health industry is almost as unreliable as the federal government, because myself, even as a doctor myself, we had a medical society meeting last night, and proper nutrition was not on the schedule, was not brought up. But if you know Rudy, just before we left, I went to the new head of the Medical Society and said that the prevention and reversal of diabetes, which is largely influenced by milk people are drinking, lactose intolerance, for example, I asked the new head for next year to do something about it. A year from now, we'll probably have the same meeting, and I will go up to him again. And so, again, the calcium paradox. We consume most calcium products, but have the most osteoporosis and fracture rate in the world. Yes, we have one of the highest rates of bone fractures in the world. Industry advertising and school diet programs have done their job. Dairy products are not dietary staples in other countries, in Japan, China, Vietnam, Thailand, yet have the lowest rate of bone fracture. They don't drink milk because they have lactose, the sugar in milk, intolerance. They don't have the lactase to break it down and excrete it. So they don't consume any milk at all, and they can be very, very healthy. So my story, for example, when I lived in New York City as a child, my dad had a delicatessen, and I drank a lot of milk. He brought a lot of milk home, and I drank it all. I had the worst case of acne you could imagine. I had pussy lesions on my lips, on my eyelids, on my tongue, all over the place. No girl would kiss me because when I was a teenager. And we didn't know that. That's acne is commonly seen with milk drinkers. Yes. Your kid has acne or you have acne, stop drinking milk. Maybe try plant milk if you feel like you need milk. Maybe drink water, coffee, and tea like I do. I don't drink any of those milks. But we'll talk about plant milks a little bit later. But milks can also cause constipation, colitis, eczema, ear infections. Your ear infections is very common. I remember doing yoga with a certain lady, and she kept on telling me all the time about her three kids had ear infections all the time. But I knew this science already, and I pointed out to her to stop giving them milk from cows. And guess what? All the ear infections cleared up. Yes, that was around many years ago. And so also there are contaminants found in milk, the process of making the milk in what the cow ate, the pesticides they may have eaten, flame retardants, even rocket fuel has been found in milk. Yet the government recommends calcium intake from milk. How could the government do that? They've been bribed with money. your congressman has been bribed with money. Yes. So, and I have to admit, we as doctors, there's ignorance going around. So we should be focusing on prevention instead of treating the disease itself. We need to treat the disease sometimes, no doubt about it. I did as a physician. But prevention should be the main focus in medicine today. Prevention is not the main focus. And I say to the medical community, wake up. So you're teaching things correctly. It would save the community a lot of money. Healthcare costs are going up all the time, and there will be a time they'll have to start looking at it. But I get TV shows, radio shows, give lectures, and all on prevention. 70% of chronic disease is rooted in dietary choices. Yes, what you're eating. That's what's causing most of the disease that we have. It's pill to the ill. It's a culture we have. I say it's prevention of the ill is what I work at. Look at YouTube, Rudy Kachman, and name any disease. I get probably 1,000, videos on there on health prevention. You name it, I have a talk on it. And in the medical school, we had maybe a couple hours of education and nutrition. When most of the diseases are caused by poor nutrition, that should be the mainstay of our education. I even offered to give free lectures at our medical school, and they refused. It's true. It's true. That happened to me, but that didn't stop me. I'm here today. Enjoy teaching prevention. America's health paradox: healthiest, most health conscious, richest nation in the world, yet one of the ones that is most unhealthy. Many are overweight. Actually, incidentally, 1/3 of people that are of normal weight can be diabetic. If you're thin, I don't have diabetes, I'm thin. Well, that doesn't mean much to me. You need to get a serum insulin. Insulin pushes sugar into the cells, and your insulin level can be elevated for 10 to 15 years before the blood sugar ever goes up. So if you want to say, I don't have diabetes, you're going to show me your blood tests. Lay them out for me. I've showed them to you, I think, on previous shows, so I'll do it again. And I learned like everybody else, okay? I wasn't much overweight, but a little bit. I never thought I was, but I still saved the pants from 15 years ago in my closet. I look at it every day as a reminder that even I changed. But today, I weighed 135 pounds and played pickleball this morning. And I'll be tap dancing, tonight. Every day I take no medication except I take vitamin M. What's vitamin M? Music. So take some vitamin M every day. So 2/3 of the adults in this country and in most countries across the world are overweight and obese. $40 billion is spent in diet books and diet things to try to get rid of it. 95% regain weight in 3 years. Millions have diabetes, so you need to be educated. You look at my YouTube shows, and it will show you the correct way to eat. Maybe the keto way, where you're eating good omega-3 fats, good fats, 20% protein, and fruit and berries are on top. You have fruit, is full of sugar and not healthy. I noticed Robert Kennedy, a new vice president, posted a thing the other day that sugar is poison. That's what he says. I just learned it a few minutes ago, so when I go home, I'm going to look at his website. So our love of milk, the average American drinks about 30 ounces of milk, cheese, and butter, and about 600 pounds of dairy products a year. Yes. Tainted advice. Since 1980, the USDA published guidelines, dietary guidelines for Americans, and they formed a food pyramid, but it was poor, and those recommendations were tied to industry. On that board that made that recommendation, 70% of the people that made that recommendation were related to the industry. Paid off. Yeah, paid off. And also, the Dietetic Association having the same problem. They have an industry with industry funding. 50% of the money that's used to train the dietitians comes from industry. And they tell them what to recommend. I know I have a friend who 15 years younger than me who died a couple of years ago, and his wife was a dietitian, and what she recommended to him was not correct. I'm very aware of that. We are drowned in information out of dairy industry, says Colin Campbell from Cornell University. The National Osteoporosis Association promotes the milk myths. Discounted surpluses are given to our schools. And the federally money put in there. So I already told you about the neighborhood health clinic. So the weaning of America, sales of dairy-related products have been declining a little bit. We are drinking less milk, but it's not declined a great deal. The truth isn't in the advertisements. We're telling people and our children to drink milk. So in 2001, though, the U.S. government physicians said milk is not a sports drink. I remember seeing at sports events where their coaches brought in big bottles of milk and made their people drink them. A lot of people have intolerance to the sugar in milk, to the lactose. They don't make the lactase. Asians don't make lactase. They drink no milk. Japanese, China, they don't drink milk anymore. People from Africa have a 75% intolerance rate. They shouldn't be drinking milk. They're having medical problems from milk. In 1970, Nestle Company, which you've heard of, sent small bottles of milk to South America to try to addict the population. But the man who was in charge said this is not truth behind this, and he was fired and quit from his job. So I was going to put up with it. There aren't many people like that around. And so they were offered samples so they would become addicted. And so do we have a calcium crisis? No. And but the idea of that has been funded by the dairy industry. Full-page advertisements in the New York Times paid for by the industry. The National Institute of Child Health and Human Development published materials that osteoporosis is a childhood disease with geriatric consequences. Incorrect. It was false. Cobalt Creamery in Vermont repeated the same mantra America is a calcium crisis country. Incorrect, false. There's actually an overabundance of calcium in the American diet. We don't need to drink milk to have a proper level of calcium in our body. A Harvard study was done of 78,000 female consuming milk and actually found it increased the bone fracture rate. Yeah. Pay attention. We actually need many other nutrients besides calcium to decrease the fracture rate. Interesting. Okay. So crisis of common sense. One industry is so concerned, but we notice that there's no broccoli industry or kale industry advocating that we eat more of that, although that has lots of calcium in it. We don't need to drink milk. Broccoli and kale has plenty of calcium. So why would us humans consume the milk of another species? Other species, if you were to give the milk to another species, it would die. Every one of them, except us humans, partially tolerate it. Okay, we don't die like that. But if you give the milk of a cat to milk of a dog, if he drinks it, he'll die. Mm-hmm. We need to know that, and so we don't really have any health requirement for milk. It's just been curated by industry. And let me tell you a little bit about the effect on children. And I will quote you some people. The difference in my son from the day we took him off dairy has been spectacular, astonishing, and unshakable. Written a book by Karen Sarosi, author of Unraveling the Mastery of Autism. And I'll talk to you more about it. She stopped drinking cow's milk and the child's autism went away. So no children should be exposed to the hormones of milk. Supplements are unlikely to help, many studies also report, okay? Dairy products, pregnancy and infancy, there is no support to the drinking of milk. Incidentally, when a babe infant is in the uterus, its genetic script is being written by what the mother does. Is she dancing to music? Is she always mad? Is she making loud noises? Is she singing songs and giving the Mozart effect to the child? So what the mother is doing while the child still is in uterus is extremely important. She's writing the genetic script of the infant as is born. It'll be underweight, overweight, musical, or may even be missing an extremity or be blind because of what the mother is doing and what her environment around the child is doing. And so from the Journal of Pediatrics, the risk of juvenile diabetes, for example, where the pancreas is destroyed, you absolutely need insulin, and ear infections and skin rashes and colic, iron deficiency, may all be reduced by the avoidance of cow's milk and its products. Wow, remember I told you about my yoga instructors, children, they all had otitis, went away when they stopped drinking milk. And here's an excellent book, which you can get in the library or buy on Amazon. Remember, used copies are a lot cheaper. I learned that trick. And 58 years ago, Benjamin Spock, pediatrician, who wrote a very famous book. It's really worth, if you have a child, you need his book in your house. Buy a used copy. Or you can get the PDF a lot cheaper on the internet. He's a world's authority on children's health. He wrote a book called Baby and Child Care. Cow's milk causes blood loss, allergies, intestinal upsets, indigestion, in some cases of type 1 diabetes, where an antibody reaction destroys the pancreas. Now you're type 1 diabetic. Yes. So milk drinkers are more likely to have type 1 diabetes, and that person will need, and they can be older when this happens, will need to take insulin the rest of their life. You can avoid all that. Many daycare centers, schools require milk. Our school has milk at every meal. You see milk written down. And if they don't recommend it, they lose their federal school reimbursement. They're losing money. That's why they don't want to change. I've been there. I try to get them to change. They won't even give me an appointment, head of the school system. Mm-hmm. They won't even talk to me. They won't even look at my shows. Yes. The policy of pushing milk upon children, especially in inner city schools, is particularly problematic because they have to eat the food in the schools. They have to eat it. Some of them, that's their meal, but it should be a healthy meal. Otherwise, it's, in some races, are more calmly represented in this group of children. And so you could say these recommendations are racial recommendations. Yes, they're racial recommendations. And if they drink milk as a child, they're more likely to drink it as an adult. And so when we take race into account, Americans have 75% no lactase. 75% of African Americans have no lactase, destroy the sugar, the lactose. And so the children are very unhealthy. Isn't that interesting? So cow's milk is 3 times as much elevated in protein in milk and increased allergies. Cow's milk is deficient in fatty acids, okay? And mother's milk has 10 times as much fatty acids, so mother's milk is healthier. But we tend to only use mother's milk for a few months instead of it's secreted generally a year or two, but mothers anymore are using it for a very short period of time. And so allergic reactions to milk are common. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, allergic reaction to milk, they think that milk may be the primary cause. It's not the whole cause for SIDS, sudden infant death, where you put the infant down and in the morning you find it dead, yes. But it can be a reaction to milk. Autism is thought to be related to milk consumption, not all of it, but a lot of it. In 1970, 1 in 10,000 children were autistic. In 1990, there was a tremendous increase. Now, in 2005, 1 in 500. In 2009, 1 in 100 are autistic. So what is autism? Let me read to you a few things so you understand what autism is. It's withdrawal from the community. Okay, the child withdraws from the community. It's self-absorption. It seems to be absorbed with itself. It has repetitive play, repeating the same thing over again, and an attachment to repetitive movement, rocking back and forth, is seen in autistic children. Difficulty interpreting facial expression. That was your emotions. The child doesn't pick it up and doesn't respond to emotional cues. Sometimes they'll go into a rage and self-injure themselves. No eye contact is seen in autistic children. May not respond to verbal commands, and 1/3 of them even have seizures. So we know the brain is involved. So now you know something about autism. Not every case is caused by milk consumption, but a lot of cases are. So calcium without cow's milk making the transition. Can you live without cow's milk? Yes, you can. Cow's milk was never intended for human consumption. Remember, I thought about the species different. Not essential for consuming, nor does it isn't necessary for bone health. Where will I get the calcium that I need? And there are recommended indications how much calcium is in each food. And in this book on page 213, it goes through the sources of calcium in great detail. It'd take a little too much of my time if I did that today. So, proof positive evidence, proteins are getting high in the brain. They've done that by testing, an increase in autism seizures. Dr. K did some research, and 80% of autistic and schizophrenic children have sharply elevated casein, the protein in milk, and gluten, which is in vegetables. Increased rates of ear infections. Milk can cause it. An example would be my nurse who had a reaction to the drinking of milk. If you have problems with the GI and colic, it can be a cow milk problem. What is the annual milk consumption in different nations? And the highest is in Finland, and they are running extremely high rate of these GI symptoms and obesity. The U.S. is sort of in the middle, and we are taking in about 120 grams a day. The lowest are in Japan and Israel. But remember what I said about Japan. They don't have the lactase enzyme, so they just cut it out completely. And they revive their school system, and they teach their children as to what they can eat. But again, sugar has caught up to them, and they are now changing it too. So gather some information. And let me go over with you a little bit about the plants that you know something about. It is a plant milk's good. So plant milk, and that's well covered in this book, incidentally, too. Non-dairy beverages. Nut milk is made from nuts, and the plant milks, other plant milks may be made from grains, beans, seeds, or coconuts, okay? Plant-based milks are consumed as alternatives to dairy milk and provide similar qualities, such as creamy mouthfeel, as well as a bland, palatable taste. Many are sweetened or flavored, so they add things to it, and you have to see if you tolerate that. As of 2021, 17 different types of plant milks, of which almond, oat, soy, coconut, and pea are the highest selling plant milks today. And like I said, you don't have to drink plant milks. I don't drink any milks. Water, coffee, the liquids I need. I don't need the milks. So plant-based beverages are consistent with vegan, vegetarian lifestyles. Soy was a plant-based milk used by China during the 14th century, a long time ago. Asians have 100% lactose intolerance. Remember, I mentioned that before about China. Plant milks can be made from grains, barley, oat, rice, spelt, triticale, wheat, legumes, nuts, seeds, and banana. They can be made from any of those. The nutritional content of human cow, soy, almond, and oat milk are listed in there, but a cow's milk has a lot more protein because a cow is bigger, and if your child is consuming that, it will indeed affect the growth rate. And besides, the cow has been injected with growth hormone. The key reason for increased sales of plant milks is lactose intolerance. And remember, different racial groups, whether you're Asian, whether you're African, we have different Europeans, Americans. After age 4 or so, our lactase goes down because it's based on evolution. We did not drink milk the year round thousands of years ago, so that's in our genetic structure. And so a glass of organic milk free of hormones contains a variety of naturally occurring bioactive hormones and growth factors, as many as 50. So there are, and how's your body going to react to that? So dry cleaning solvents are now found in cow's milk. Yeah, and you're going to drink this yourself or give it to your child, and they increase rates of cancer also because of a reaction to these contaminants, toxins that are in milk. And some herds who are drinking milk are dying because we are spraying the fields with toxins and pesticides and herbicides, and they're eating that, and then their youngsters get this milk, and they have increased death rate. And so I think you've learned quite a bit there, but reading the book, I think, is more value, and looking online. So we have a mixed media. Business Week has an article, the best source of calcium is dairy products such as skim milk and yogurt. That was in Business Week. No wonder the public is confused. Brody's New York Times reporter, generally a very good reporter, says the best absorbed source of nutrients and vitamin calcium and vitamin D are low-fat and non-fat dairy products. Yeah, there's an article written in the New York Times. So perfect people sell not so perfect food. You have to pay attention. Anyone that can offer a contrary view as easily blown over by a hot wind of multi-million-dollar advertisements in his campaigns. So the eat milk thing was overblown, like when I was a child. That's why I had a horrible case of acne, and my father was selling it in his deli in New York. And so the dairy industry, what they advertise, is promoted by federal officials, celebrated by athletes. Federal official endorsed milk as a healthy food, occurring all the time. Filmmaker Spike Lee, participation in ads leave you wondering the message he's giving to African Americans who have a lot of faith in Spike Lee, and I love him too. But if you're giving a false message and killing a lot of people, I mean, what kind of activity is that? Where no cows get calcium from the grass, they are putting pressure on the parents and children study. A meta-analysis studying many studies, exercise may be more important to bone strength than calcium. Wow. Maybe that's why I tap dance, play pickleball. 89 years old the other day, on no pills and no illness. I don't know. One case may not mean nothing, but it means something. 89 years old, and girls still smile at me. Listen to me, guys and kids. The majority of studies have found no relationship between dairy and dietary calcium intake and measures of bone health. Wow. I'm piling on the evidence. I'm piling it on. So a false concept, a child needs milk of another species. Have I mentioned that to you enough? It's utterly ridiculous. 5,400 species of mammals all produce milk for their own young, but each species is different. Different amount of carbohydrates, different proteins, different fats, different minerals. For example, rat's milk is 49% protein because they have a rapid rate of maturation. A cow's milk is not well suited for humans. Too much protein in it, they're going to be attacked and maybe cause type 1 diabetes. So the amount of nutrients is different in human and cow's milk. Okay, cow's milk has 4.9% carbohydrate, while a human is 9%. A baby cow's doubles weight in 47 days, 180 days for humans. So there are different proteins, different carbohydrates. Calcium absorption is different. The rate of absorption is different for calcium from kale or broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Kale is 49%. Brussels sprouts, 63%. So it all has different rates. Cow's milk can cause human disease. Acne, I told you about my story. Believe me, it was severe. All these pustules all over my face and body. 40 million people have it from drinking milk, from drinking cow's milk. Not plant milk, cow's milk. Also, it can cause anger, fear, anxiety, depression, embarrassment, bullying, decrease employment because if you have eczema or acne all over you, they're less likely to hire you, okay? $2 billion a year is spent trying to treat it. We could save a lot of money if we were not drinking milk. And some, this is interesting, and milk can cause addiction to it. Has been found, especially the cheese. They found that in these products, there's, in essence, a relative of morphine in it. And that is actually why when a baby is taking even breast milk, it tends to fall asleep because a morphine-type substance is in milk, even in good milk. So in milk, the protein casein can be addictive. That's what's making it addictive. The breakdown products of casein, the protein in milk, produces exorphins, and they're more abundant in cheese, making cheese can be very addictive to some people. Some people are addicted to it. They'll get up in the middle of the night and go to the store, which is maybe open all night, and buy some cheese and eat it before they go back to bed again. That's a true story. That's a true story. And we spoke about allergic reaction in SIDS, and you can consume it and die very quickly. But they can cause allergies, migraine headaches. 60% of Americans have some sort of food allergy. Mm-hmm. Greatly underdiagnosed because the symptoms don't say, I'm allergic. The symptoms may be obscure. Cow's milk, most common food allergen in children. The most common cause of allergy in children is cow's milk. So we have to consider it. But it can cause all sorts of symptoms: chronic fatigue, excessive sweating, frequent urination, sleep disturbance, rapid breathing, coughing, cardiac symptoms, chest pain, palpitation, and behavioral, anxiety, irritability, nervousness. These all can be reactions to milk. You have to keep that in mind. If that's a persistent and a big problem, you have to put milk on the list as possibly being part of it. And it can be confusing. And in cow's milk, there are at least 30 allergens, the one that cause it. Casein, BGG, ALA, BSA. These are enzymes. Arthritis and joint pain, cow's milk may do it. Cheese can do it. Get a constant right knee pain, you don't know why. Put what you're consuming on the list. Lactose intolerance, which we spoke about already. The Vietnamese, remember I said 100%. The Thais, 90%. The Greek, 85%. Japanese, 85%. And we spoke about them already. Native Americans, 50%. The French, 32%. Americans, about 25%. Austrians, 20%. Northern Europeans, about 7%. I remember we ate a lot of cheese when I lived in Germany. They may cause cataracts too. Now, heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S., and the literature has changed over the years a little bit. And something, milk consumption could do it, but I think #1 on the list actually is sugar. And Robert Kennedy said it, sugar's a poison. So the sugar in the food, that's the #1 cause of heart disease, because the sugar the sugar causes, it turns into fat. And they say, oh, the fat is the cause. There's good fats, there's bad fats. The science is changing. And 40% of the females are rejected from the military. They apply to go into the military and they're rejected. 80% of the males. And the first recommendation to treat the situation in a baby, stop cow's milk, okay? And remember, the baby cows are injected with growth hormone. And in 2003, the nation's Dairy Council said lose weight because the nation was getting bigger, and they said increase your dairy. Well, it was a lie. It was a fraudulent lie. Should be prosecuted for that? I think so. Not everybody would agree, but if it's harming people, killing people, perhaps we should step up to bat. So milk consumption may increase male and female cancers. It's been proven. Crohn's disease, a disease of the bowel, chronic inflammatory disease. People have bloody diarrhea, particularly between age and 24, has doubled in the last 10 years. Probably they think it's a contaminant in milk. Not every case, but many cases. Cancers. You could say there's increased fat intake, but it could be the sugar that's making the fat. Breast cancer rates. Breast cancer, as a cause, has about 200 genes. 200 genes. So what are you going to reduce the breast cancer rate? Rate by giving a drug for every genetic potential. In 2009, the government stopped funding cancer research related to genetic change. Yes, only 2 cancers had one gene influences, CCL, and retinoblastoma. The rest had many genes influences, like breast cancer is best prevented by lifestyle change, some exercise, and the rest is eating the right food, eating good fats and good nutrients. Yeah, breast cancer can be prevented 90% of the time, and I don't think we are providing that information for the public enough. And so like in cancer, I mentioned it, they would say it's the fat in the food, but I say it's the sugar which turns into fat. And kind of interesting. A glass of milk has in it 59 hormones, 80 pituitary hormones, 7 steroid hormones, and estrogen in the breast. Cows are milked during pregnancy and an increase in milk. So the estrogen is something to do with it. Lifetime exposure to estrogen affects breast cancer rate. So in summary, I think we have covered this field of drinking milk. Milk is not necessary. If you feel you need to drink some, you can drink some plant milk. Learn a little bit about the science of it by looking it up or reading a book about it. And I highly encourage you to read this book by Joe Kachman. Have it in the home so other family members who don't want to change, you show them the scientific evidence. That is the book. And you got to admit, the story of John Robbins and his father and his factory is fascinating, and that he confessed all this and changed himself, we have to just go like this to John Robbins. We did this show, and I do it periodically so that you know about milk. I have other shows on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, Rudy Kachman, The Science of Milk, and a number of shows will show up. But this one will be on YouTube, I think, within a day or two, and we thank the library for doing that. I do this because I love you and care about you. See you next time.